Oh, Ricky, we've been waiting for this for a long time. Welcome to Minor League Mondays, a Red Hot Reds, Cincinnati Reds podcast exclusive. The only podcast out there that exclusively covers the Reds minor league system from the DSL all the way up to the AAA team in Louisville. We've been really kind of hyping this up, kind of putting a lot of stuff out there. A big section of our fan base is really into the minors, and we wanted to serve them exclusively with just this podcast. So we're really excited to delve into it. For our first show, for our maiden voyage, we're going to do an updated list of our top 30 prospects in the Reds system. We did one back in November and had some guys on there that may show up again, may not, maybe moved up, what have you. We're going to cover that 30 down to number 1. Ricky, are you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do it.
With the second pick of the 2024 MLB Draft, the Cincinnati Reds select Chase Burns.
It's hammered down the left field line and way gone. A solo home run for Alfredo Duno. Collier swats one into left field, testing the line. That is down a base hit. Rogers is coming around third. He will score. To replace him at second is Cam Collier with a stand-up double.
Find it short, up in the air. Arroyo steals a base hit.
The swing and a fly ball down the left field line, hooking toward the corner. It is a fair ball, and it is gone. Home run re-signs.
Make it two! Trudeau jumps on the first pitch and lines it for right. Move crosses the plate, and the Tortugas will not say die tonight.
Lewis takes inside, throw to second is on a hop, and it is not in time. And there is stolen base number 50 for Kyle Headley.
There's a swing and a fly ball into center. Dunn going back on the warning track, leaps to the wall, makes the catch. Dunn hauled it in. Ball game over.
Swing, here's a well-hit ball to right field. Moving back to the wall. Campbell, that ball is gone! This game is tied!
That's airborne into the gap, into right field, diving forward, and making the catch is Hendrick.
Ian Fu with a skyscraping blast out to right. Daytona is on the board.
There's a swing and a fly ball to left. Rodriguez turns around. It's gone just over the wall into the seats. Home run, Sal Stewart. Kind of a high liner. It got out of here in a hurry.
Fly ball center field. Jorge there. And it is caught. Calderon cut in front and caught the ball. Put this game in the win column. Put this winning streak at 14. It's a new club record.
Righty sends. Henrik signs. Drives it out into right field. That's going to be the ball game. Look out, Twin. Look out, Twin. Henrik comes through. What a play. What a bat for Henrik, the fans, and the Chattanooga Lookouts.
Again, welcome to Minor League Mondays, a new show presented by Red Hot Reds, a Cincinnati Reds podcast. And if you went through that intro, listened to every single call out there, that is Ricky's baby, that he put all these calls together of all these guys that we're really big fans of. And if you caught at the end, Austin Hendrick makes an appearance. So shout out to Austin Hendricks out there. But yeah, that's Ricky Logan, writer at Reds on SI. I'm Roger Strauss. We're going to be bringing you this show every Monday, recapping the week that is for the minors in the Cincinnati Reds organization. Today, we're going to be doing our top 30 again, a revised list with some different guys going over some different things and whatnot. But we're really excited to bring this content to you to separate it out from our usual Sunday show where we usually are just covering everything Reds. Now we're just going to do on Sundays at 8 p.m. just the Major League Ball Club and how their week went. And on Mondays, we're going to be exclusively talking about your Cincinnati Reds minor leagues team. So, Ricky, Like, what are your thoughts? What are your first impressions when we're going into this maiden voyage of Minor League Monday?
Yeah, I mean, we started out with very, limited content on the minor league, so we covered it. But then, as the season progressed, we dived more into it, and we made some friends along the way as well. And it's something that's turned into something I genuinely maybe enjoy more than the major league team to a degree. Just I always joke that we were always teased about the future. So it's like we might as well find out who these guys are that are going to be in the future. So it's a lot of fun. I'm excited about it, and that intro, like you said, it's kind of my baby. It took like 4 hours to make that, just trying to find the right calls and energetic calls, and my favorite one is probably the Dragons call for the winning streak last year, which if you caught the Jonathan Harmon interview, the story behind that is awesome with what's his name? Alexander
Vargas.
Alexander Vargas, yes. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, a couple thoughts just came in my head as well, talking about like basically the one thing that makes baseball a lot different than some other sports is like it could take you 4 or 5 years to get to the top of the professional, pyramid, so to speak. Like, got a lot of these guys that we'll cover are in maybe Dominican are 16, 17, 18 years old. Some of these guys are 21, 22, 23, trying to break through to play in Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark. So we want to celebrate them because it's a grind. Baseball's a grind, man. It's not an easy sport because you play almost every single day, and you got to beat out all these other guys just to make the team, just to make the starting lineup, just to make it hopefully to be a Cincinnati Red. So that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to be covering, like I said, all the way down from the Dominican Summer Leagues that start in June, July, to the ACL, which is like in May, to the guys that are at Daytona, Dayton, Chattanooga, and Louisville. So we'll cover it all. And we're proud to get that because I think we're the only show out there, I believe, in podcast form that covers these guys. So we hope that you subscribe, like, comment, give all that stuff, because a lot of these guys, I think, are hungry to help this organization win. A lot of the guys that we talk to, like you talk about Jonathan Harmon, Ryan McChrystal, Trevor Kunsel, whomever, they see Tito at the top and they want to run through a wall for him. So yeah. We're going to bring that content. We're going to try to bring that same energy as well to this show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So to kick it off, we've got our top 30, but before we get to the top 30, we've got some honorable mentions, some guys we want to just shout out that did not make the top 30, but are prospects to watch in 2026. Definitely guys we're watching, Ricky, right? Like, top the list, Mr. Austin Hendrick, your guy. The 2020 first round pick for the Reds, I believe, is near and dear to your heart. But I'll run through this list and we can talk about maybe a couple if you want. Luke Hayden, Dayton Dragon guy. Ryan McChrystal, also Dayton. Ichiro Kano played in the Mexican Pacific League. Shout out to him. Iker Redona, DSL. Is he lefty or righty? I forget now.
Lefty. He was an all-star too.
All-star at the DSL level. Awesome. Donnie Aguilera also played really well in the DSL as a pitcher. Moises Castillo, same thing for him. Right-handed pitcher. Met him at spring training. Great guy. Isaac Garcia, unfortunately, wasn't brought stateside to do spring training, but we're going to keep an eye on him for this 2026 season. Luke Holman, Jordan Oanu, Justin Martinez, Kevin Abel, Nabel Mariano, Eli Pitts, Ty Floyd, Johanser Calzado. And this is a guy that we've been talking about a lot. And we're also trying to figure out his pronunciation, but we're going to go with Rajateri Morete, Anilson Bouton, and Dave Villafana. So any of those guys that stand out you want to talk about at this time, obviously we're going to be covering them all. So you'll probably be hearing these names more and more as we go.
Yeah, let's talk about Morete a little bit, just because he debuted in the World Baseball Classic the other day, had a really solid outing. Some of the guys he retired Salvador Perez on a fly out, just, solid, very good major league talent. And I think I think Salvador Perez had the only fly ball. Everybody else was ground balls. And then I think he started the second game against, was it Israel he started against? And he was pretty good. I mean, I think he gave up a run, but you're talking about a guy that's exclusively pitched in the Dominican Summer League, and he gets, blasted on the world stage and just does admirably. You can't ask for anything more than what he did. I think he exceeded expectations, if you ask me. So I commend him on that. And then obviously I got to shout out Austin Hendrick. Just the year he had a really, really solid year last year. I think it was probably his best year as a pro so far. And I think he's projected to start in AAA, which what that means. You're just one step away from the major league team. They have a lot of outfield depth ahead of him. It's going to be a long shot and a long road, but if he goes out there and hits 20 home runs in AAA, I think they take a look at him for sure. And then Iker Rodona is the last one I want to talk about. DSL All-Star. I think he just turned 17, or he just turned 18, but he's a teenager, and he could very well be on the MLB pipeline top 30 this season. And if he's not this season, for sure next year. He's got good stuff, good command. I think he had like a sub-1 ERA. Just great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan McChrystal, a shout out to him. He's been performing well. It sounds like, and even the announcer for the Dragons, Mr. Tom Nichols, predicts that him and Duno and Diego Omana are going to be the catchers in Dayton this year, which is in line what we're thinking as well. But also McChrystal can play first base, which is great for flexibility and allows for both McChrystal and Duno to be in the lineup probably more times than not. Ichiro Kano had a pretty decent Mexican Pacific League, like I talked about a second ago. Played on a team that made it to their playoffs, but didn't end up winning, I believe. Isaac Garcia, unfortunately, didn't come stateside, but hopefully we'll keep an eye on him. Hopefully he'll perform in the DSL again. Maybe makes the ACL again into 2026. I did watch Naibel Mariano. He hit a triple in the little inter squad games that they had. So this guy can hit and he can run. So he's a guy to watch out for 2026 as well. See his performance going forward. And then also Johanser Calzado had some pretty decent numbers in the DSL. Maybe a candidate for ACL this year, but we'll see. We'll keep an eye on him. We know for sure that a guy like Pablo Nunez and Hervin Murillo are candidates for ACL, but maybe get moved up and play for Daytona. There's a lot of different things that can happen at the time of this recording. We're not exactly sure where these guys are going to be, but we have some good indications of where some of them will be, and we're really looking forward to this 2026 season and following them through wherever it is, the DSL, ACL, or maybe they get their chance to play in the Florida Southern or Florida State League in Daytona. So shout out to those guys. Any other thoughts on these two before we move on to our 30 through 21?
Yeah, I noticed just from the pictures you and Mike sent from your guys' voyage at spring training that McChrystal was playing a lot of first base. So I wonder if that might be a transition for him as well. Even though the Reds need catching depth and he's a really solid catcher, they also it wouldn't hurt to have good first base depth. And he's young and he can hit the ball really well, which translates, if you can avoid wasting a career, I don't say wasting. If you can avoid risking the injury and the wear and tear of catching, and you can place somebody like him at first base and he can perform, it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And flexibility is key, especially for depth, for anything we know with the Reds, any little injury can move guys around, and you want to have some positional flexibility to fill in those gaps. So that's kind of a thing. And it's just side tangent. It's interesting they haven't done that with Duno at all, to be honest with you, to kind of give him a little more flexibility. I know they've done that with other catchers, through the years. I know there's, the Salvador Perez that could play DH and first base sometimes. And then what's his name? The Philadelphia Phillies guy he was originally a catcher. And then they put him in first base. So, But neither here nor there. We'll move on to our 30 to 21 on our top 30. Some unranked guys from before. We, at least here at Red Hot Reds, I think personally, myself as well, I don't want to speak for Ricky, I guess, is we kind of prioritize guys that may not get the shine of other top 30 lists, MLB Pipeline, whatnot, but also we want to prioritize guys that will hopefully make an impact sooner than later. It is kind of interesting if we talked to Clay Snowden recently about how, lists can be pretty full of hope with guys that hopefully they end up being the prospect that they're ranked as. But you kind of want to make sure that you have, at least a priority to have some guys that will be in the big league club sooner than later, as opposed to having a top 30 list of all guys that won't be there till 2030. At least that's just my personal preference and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, we'll run down that list if you're ready, Ricky. And just to run it down real quick, Angel Salillo, number 30, a guy that is in the DSL, plays the left side of the infield. Angel Nunez is a guy that we just signed out of the international free agent signing, literally 16 years old. So he's got lots of potential. So we're, hopefully seeing a lot out of him in the DSL this season. Our guy, Trevor Kunsel, closer, relief pitcher, had a great Double-A Chattanooga season and has looked great. Last time I checked, 0 ERA in spring training. And that's, obviously spring training, but if he's trying to earn a job, I think he's doing everything he possibly can at this point. Hansel Jimenez, a recent guy that got added to the Reds top 30 through MLB.com, but a guy that we've been talking about, it feels like, for months and months and months, is there at 27. Same thing with Hervin Murillo. Both these guys played in the Aussie Baseball League in the winter. Kian Vu, a friend of the show, but a five-tool player that is just consistent, and a left-handed bat outfielder that will hopefully provide more depth down the road with that class of 2027. Another guy played Aussie baseball, Pablo Nunez, outfielder. Carlos Jorge, hopefully, is a guy that will be in Double-A and proving his worth. A guy that was really high in the charts a couple of years ago, as recent as last year, I think even in the top 15, has kind of fallen off. Not necessarily, performing it up to maybe what he's expected to do, but still has lots of time to get it right, and hopefully does well in Chattanooga this year. Ricky Cabrera, a guy I think was in Dayton, plays second base, third base, and hopefully will put together another solid season to hopefully maintain this list or move up. And Mason Morris, a right-handed pitcher, playing for Daytona, and that rounds out the list from 30 to 21. Any guys you want to talk about in particular here?
Yeah, I really love Kian Vu's game. When we talked to him, we kind of asked him who did you model your game after, and he said Ichiro. You can kind of see that just by the way he's a good bat to ball hitter. He's got good speed. He loves playing defense, and he's self-proclaimed defense first guy. He had a pretty solid offensive college career, and aside from his rough start to his pro career, he won Player of the Week the following week and was one of the better players on the Tortugas post him in the group of players he came up with being promoted to the team. And I think he's got a really bright future. He was an All-American at Arizona State, and it just seems like a really good dude just from when we talked to him. And I think he's a even better player than he is a dude. So, I like him a lot. And then Hansel Jimenez, really good, good pop in his bat, some really good defense. He's got some hops. I've shared some highlights before on our socials of him over in Australia, making some leaping catches and some glove flips. I like him a lot too. And then obviously our guy, Trevor Kunsel, his story is so cool. Just, not getting drafted and then going to play independent ball and gets a chance with the Texas Rangers and doesn't make it out of spring training. And then he goes to Mexico, and then he gets a call from the Reds, and here we are potentially, starting in AAA this year. And, he's playing very well in spring training. And, if if he had another year of experience under his belt with the minors, maybe he's a a dark horse candidate to get in to the bullpen in the major league level, but not quite there that this point in time. If he has a really good AAA season, he could be knocking on the door very soon. And he's still relatively young. I think he's 26, 27.
Mm-hmm.
Not an old player at all. He's not a young prospect, but he's still, you can consider him a prospect based off of his service time.
Yeah, for sure. But the one thing about, I think, what the Reds from a Tino Francona's standpoint is that he wants solid, relief pitching, and hopefully that means that that's something that and something consistent coming out of the pen, right? Like obviously you got guys like Maxwell May who have outstanding fastballs that off the screen 100 plus, right? But if you can't control it, it might as well be 200 miles an hour, right? But anyway, the guy that I'm glad you didn't profile is our guy Pablo Nunez. Has been fantastic in the Aussie Baseball League. Really caught fire there after having even a really good DSL season for the DSL Reds, where he was hitting the ball well and seeing the ball well. Like the thing I think you've talked about in the past, his walk to strikeout ratio in the DSL, he walked 41 times to 6 strikeouts. Like that's like unheard of in terms of baseball like type stuff. I know the DSL can have some really wild pitchers and all that, but still that ratio is like off the charts good.
Yeah.
And
he backed that up in Australia too.
Exactly. It wasn't just a one-time thing. And he hit the ball really well, played great defensive center field out there for the Blue Sox in Sydney. Like this is a guy that maybe ranked too low on our list, to be honest with you, but he's still got a lot of levels to still go through. So we hope that he's at least at the ACL level here again, going into 2026. If not, a candidate to maybe skip. Maybe he's playing Daytona. I don't know. Daytona's pretty stacked as well in the outfield with a Kian Vu, a Mason Neville, a thing like that. Like it may be difficult for him to break in, so he might have to prove his worth first at the Complex League, and then maybe bridge to Daytona later in 2026. But again, a bunch of these guys, a lot of talent, a lot of possibilities to be Reds down the road. Hopefully Kunzel sooner than later. But a lot of these guys, even Hervin Murillo, a guy that made it to the top 30 list for MLB.com for the Reds. He's got a lot of potential playing, again, for that Sydney Blue Sox team. Played really well for them. And hopefully we'll do the same thing like Pablo and Hansel Jimenez. So hopefully they come up together, and that maybe that class of 2027, maybe they're kind of those guys, if not 2028.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took the Pablo Nunez on this one, because I feel like some people probably think I'm just a homer with him, but he's such a good player, man. I don't even know who to compare him to. There's not like a player that I can really think of. Like if you're thinking Reds, like you would think maybe TJ Friedel, but I think he's got a higher ceiling than TJ Friedel.
Yeah.
And he's a scrappy guy. Reminds me of Ryan Friel a little bit. Just, he runs hard after everything. He's got a strong arm. He threw multiple guys out at home plate from the outfield in Australia. And, all those walks, he set the record for the highest on base percentage in the history of the Dominican Summer League last year. And like you said, he backed it up in Australia. It wasn't just a fluke. Like he's just got that eye. And I think the Reds got something special on him.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that for sure. All right. For 20 through 11, we've got a bunch of guys here as well that we'd love to cover, at least in terms of the DSL as well, some of them, and some of the high A, single A, low A team. And number 20, we got our Jean-Pierre Ortiz, who is up in Dayton, and Mason Neville, like I talked about a little bit. Kian Vu is down there at Daytona, in the outfield there. Number 18, Shingen Lin, who I think we can talk about this and debate it. I don't know if he's going to be hitting as much in Daytona as he did in the ACL, but we'll have to keep tabs on that and kind of assess his value that way. Either way, he can be the unicorn where he pitches and hits like a Shohei Ohtani possibility. But we can get into that in a little bit. And then 17, Alfredo Alcantara at Dayton. Starlin Torres, a fantastic DSL, ACL player that has been ripping through the system and now I think projected to be a Daytona. Zach Maxwell, who is a guy that's already made the majors, hasn't had the service time to get off of our list. So he's still kind of eligible for Rookie of the Year kind of honor. So that's why he's still here on us. Number 15. But I think we're projecting him to start at Louisville based on what we've seen in spring training and what the Reds have in their bullpen at the moment. 14, Liberts Aponte, another really successful DSL season out of Liberts. I think an international free agent signing, I believe, unless I'm...
Yeah, he was 2025 class.
So, yeah, so shout out to him on that. Number 13, Aaron Watson, right-handed pitcher, ACL. I believe he had injury most of 2025 or something.
He was He was their second-round draft pick.
Okay, so I don't believe he's
out of high school. He's young.
Yeah, so I don't think he's pitched. I think they're taking it a little bit easy with him. So he's projected to start ACL. Hopefully have a good 2026 season there. Number 12, Arnaldo Lantigua, a guy that killed it in the ACL and then ended up at I want to say Daytona, killed it there too. And then we're projecting him to be in Dayton at the start of the year. And then Leo Balcazar, a guy that was protected in the 40-man, really good infielder, can play bunch of positions, usually as a shortstop, but we know we've kind of have a little backlog at shortstop, at least at the moment. Can play second or third, but is kind of proven to be kind of a guy that the Reds really value. So we really have him right there on the cusp of the top 10 for our top 30 list. Ricky, any guys you want to profile in particular?
Yeah, I really like Starlin Torres' game. I wrote about him here recently. This is his first time on the official MLB pipeline list. I think he's at 25. He's got really good stuff. His fastball hits the mid to high 90s. He's got command of all of his pitches. He had an ERA, I want to say it was around 1, maybe a little bit below. Just phenomenal stuff. I got something pulled up on him. So at 19 years old last year, he pitched in 10 games, started 6 of them. In his first game, he pitched in relief. He threw 3 shutout innings with a walk and a hit, 4 strikeouts. His next 3 appearances were starts. He pitched 4 shutout innings again, but 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, and a walk. In May, he had a 1.89 ERA, a 179 batting average against him. And he finished the season 0-1. I think win-loss record's kind of obsolete nowadays, but 0-1 with a 1.88 ERA, a 0.86 whip, 44 strikeouts, 7 walks, and a 193 batting average against him. Just great stuff, and especially for a pitcher who you hope eventually gets to the Cincinnati level. He's got a fastball, like I said, mid to high 90s, 95 to 97. He's got a sinker that he gets weak contact out of. He's got a slider and a changeup and a slow curveball. And he's got just unbelievable command of his pitches, especially for a 19-year-old. Like a lot of the scouts that I've read reports off of him are just, extremely amazed with how much command he has for his age. A little undersized. I think he's 5'11" or 6 foot. And like I said, if he could do what he's doing and just continue to do that, this guy's going to be just great.
For sure. The guy I like to talk about, Arnaldo Lantigua, has been fantastic. He had a great ACL season that got him promoted to Daytona and has continued just to rake. And I know we lament about our kind of outfield depth. He might be part of that, hopefully, that strength in the class of 2027, class of outfielders that hopefully are going to break through and be able to have some really significant outfield power, hitting ability, defensive ability, because he could play, all over the center field, right field, or left field. So that's a great asset to have, and only 19 years old. So he's entering, I think, age 20, possibly in Dayton, and that's kind of crazy because it's a really quick track, hopefully, because like we talked about, the upper level, AA, AAA outfield maybe he's got a path there to really move up the system, at least for the outfield as well. Zach Maxwell as well is the guy that I think will pitch a lot in the majors. He has to just get that control stuff down. That's why he's kind of a little bit further down, because we kind of know what he's about. It's just a matter of putting it together. And, obviously if he pitches enough, he might even graduate from this list where he's no longer a prospect and it's just a regular part of the rotation. I should say a part of the bullpen and part of the major league system where this is a guy that Tito can kind of depend on. So that's hopefully something that's coming for him in his future.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we talked about, he's got closer stuff. He's got an electric fastball. Just needs to get his command down. And then going back to Lantigua, we got him from the Dodgers for international free agent spending money so they could get Sasaki. So I think we did a good job on that one. And I guess just kind of going back to Sheng-En Lin, kind of following their track record with him. Yeah. They started out hitting his first year. His second year, he pitched exclusively. And then I want to say halfway through the year, he flipped. And then, or no, what it was is, okay, well, he in the ACL, he hit his first year, pitched the second half of the year, and then the next year he hit and then flipped the pitching. It was a weird thing they're doing with him. Like they're letting him hit for a part of the year at a level, and then they're switching it to just exclusively pitching.
Yeah.
So last year when he got to Daytona, he pitched exclusively. So I guess if he's back in Daytona, I'm going to assume he's going to hit maybe exclusively, or they might do both. They might work him into getting both and just get him used to doing that. It's a weird situation. I don't know how they're handling it. I feel like if you just let him loose, like I get he's a young kid, but eventually you gotta loosen the reins a little bit and let him go. But and then Mason Neville, he was their 4th round pick out of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Led all of college baseball in home runs last year. And, we talked to Clay Snowden the first time we had him on, and we didn't like our outfield depth. And I think it's safe to say that we have some really good outfield depth here over the last year with Pablo Nunez, Neville, Kianvu, Lantigua. I mean, the list goes on. You need to get up a little bit higher. Reese Hines, Will Benson, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I really like those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing that we have learned, again, mentioning Clay, is that this transition for these guys that are now low A or high A, depending on who we're talking about, of the guys you just mentioned, how are they going to do if they move up to Chattanooga, if they move up to Louisville? Like that's got to be, hopefully they can continue that success. Hopefully they can continue to progress, because like Clay had said, the spin on the ball is different. The pitchers are a lot more, on the verge of being major leaguers than they are, say, in the Florida State League or at the ACL complex, right? So it's nice that we're having success at these lower levels. Now we got to really have these guys lock in, hopefully in 2026, and continue that and be able to do that in Chattanooga and Louisville. That's something really to look forward to, especially our outfield unit for sure.
Yeah. Like we said, just the depth that we didn't have, we have, like you could almost say, a surplus in depth. Just, it's fun to see, man. We've done a really good job, I think, over the last 4 years in scouting and developing the DSL and the draft prospects.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, definitely international free agent stuff as well. Reds have been doing an excellent job there for sure, like you highlighted with Lantigua. So yeah, now we'll move on to our 10 through 6. We're getting down to it, almost to the guys that are tops the organization. And this is a top 10 is pretty legit. These are guys that hopefully have great futures and great possible presence as Jose Franco, another guy that was on the 40-man, I believe, but just got optioned down to AAA, is our number 10 for our prospects. Another guy, Adolfo Sanchez, who hopefully has a great future ahead of him. We anticipate him being in the ACL this year. Hector Rodriguez, another guy that was added to the Major League roster and got optioned down to AAA, was protected because of the Rule 5 status in December, but has, I think, a great future ahead of him as well. Did pretty well in spring training, not obviously blowing everyone out the water with some performances, but did well enough. And I think AAA is a good landing spot for him, at least for right now. Steele Hall, another guy, lots of tools, really young, reclassified. I think he's just turned 18. Basically is going into the ACL complex and going to hopefully be able to get into affiliate ball Daytona possibly this year if he does well. And then our guy, Chase Petty, who has made his Major League debut, not the greatest of debuts as we well documented on the show, but we know he's got lots of good stuff, 4 pitches at least that he goes to regularly and has the command on that. It's just a matter, I think, of building his confidence back in there. And he did end up at AAA having a kind of rough season to end of 2025. So I believe he kind of even moved down our list a little bit, if I'm remembering right. He went from, I think, 3 when we had him in November down to 6. Hopefully, having a bounce back year, building his confidence back up at Louisville, and then being a contributor at the Major League level to help this team win ball games and maybe, help them get into the playoffs. But any guys you want to talk about out of this list?
Yeah, I'll talk about Chase Petty. Like we said, his debut was not great. 2 1/3 innings. He gave up, I think, 9 runs in those. It was a doubleheader versus the Cardinals. It was a taxi squad kind of thing where they needed an extra guy, needed the pitcher, and he was, really the only guy they could call up. Louder was hurt. You weren't going to bring up Burns just yet, even though I think we all wanted him to.
Mm-hmm.
He probably could have, but if Burns had the start that he had in Boston as his Major League debut, I think a lot of people would be disappointed. I think it would leave a sour taste. But Petty has some pretty good pitches. I know some people don't like his fastball, but I think he's got a decent fastball. He's been working on some different grips. He added a kick change. And after his debut, you could tell that, he wasn't, it got to him, there's a shot of him in the dugout with the towel over his head. And, Tito said he was just coming off the mountain. He's wearing it. He just couldn't get his fastball where he wanted it and paid for it. And his career is not going to be defined by tonight. And I believe that. And I believe it too. He did have a couple games where he did look okay. But like I said, he's just really struggled with his command. And that was at all levels. Even in AAA, he was really struggling there. But one thing to remember with him, he's just 22. And he's younger right now than what Andrew Abbott was when he made his Major League debut. Brady Singer made his Major League debut. And Nick Lodolo made his Major League debut. And we've seen some quotes going around from like Jose Trevino last year in spring training saying that he reminds him a lot of Sonny Gray, which that's pretty exciting because we had Sonny Gray here and we liked him a lot. We got Chase Petty from Sonny Gray. So if you could get a Sonny Gray type pitcher out of that, and he's so young, you can't give up on him just yet. With that being said, this is probably the most important year of his career, where if he doesn't perform in AAA, you got to evaluate what you do with him in the future, kind of like a Connor Phillips situation. Do you move him to the bullpen? Do you maybe give him a long relief role? I mean, got some decisions to make for sure. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about Jose Franco because I saw him actually pitch in spring training, and his spring training numbers weren't too bad. I think he was always going to end up at AAA, and even if he had blown everyone out of the water. But I think he went 4 2/3 innings, only gave up 2 runs, 3.86 ERA, but 8 strikeouts in just 4 2/3 innings. So he got out there and got after it. This is his age 25 season, so he's kind of, I think, really trying to make a name for himself, much like also like a Julian Aguiar, a guy that also could be right there with him and Chase Petty on like the outside looking in for this rotation. The question with, I think, Franco that we've been kind of going back and forth with ourselves, not on the show, but also maybe on the show sometimes, like, what do they see him as? Do they see him as a full-time starter? They see him as a reliever? They see him as a bridge guy, like a Nick Martinez that could do both? That'll be interesting to see what they do at AAA, because we've also documented on the show the AAA like starting rotation is going to be just as good, or at least it's going to be real kind of like a bunch of guys that can get after it with Franco, Petty, Brandon Williamson might be a part of that. Obviously Rhett Lauder is going to be probably up with the major league club, but if he's ever down there as well, like it's going to be a pretty good starting rotation. I'm probably leaving out a couple of guys, maybe like even a Jose Acuna could be a part of that. But the AAA club might have just as attractive starting pitchers as we do up at Cincinnati, which would be kind of exciting to see. But those guys, are part of the can't have enough good starting pitching. So we're gonna maybe lean on Jose Franco possibly this year at the major league club, and if he's ready to go and ready to rock, that's just better for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, I know there's been some talk, like you said, about if he's going to be a starter or a reliever. He had Tommy John in 2023. He came back in 24. So I think the whole, like, he hasn't pitched past 4 innings kind of thing, I think that's just him, them working him back and not trying to overdo it, just putting him on an innings limit or a pitch count or whatever. So I could see him maybe being stretched out a little bit this year, and that's why he is in AAA. And because I think was he their minor league pitcher of the year last year?
Yeah,
if I remember right. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he hits triple digits with his fastball, and that's coming back from Tommy John. So I feel okay about him, and if he is a reliever, I think he's got good enough stuff to be a successful one for sure. You can see like maybe a better version of Graham Ashcraft out of that, and he's probably going to make his debut at some point this season. Just, you can never have too much pitching.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why he's moved up the rankings. I want to say he was further down, 13 on our November rankings, up to 10. And I think the Reds value him as well, which is why we moved him up in the rankings for our prospect list. Is like you said, he's on the verge. He's right there, and he seems to have the stuff. He seems healthy after, like you said, Tommy John. So, shout out to Jose Franco and all these other guys. Like, you don't want to leave out Hector as well. Hector's going to possibly make his debut this year as well. We'll see how he does out the gate at AAA Louisville, and how much he plays between the other outfielders that may be in the mix. Austin Hendrick may be in the mix, Reese Hines, Will Benson, or whomever that may be down there at AAA from time to time. Hector's going to have to prove his worth to just get a starting spot in AAA. So hopefully that's kind of the story that we'll be telling when we cover them on minor league Mondays going forward. But any other thoughts on these guys?
No, just we're probably going to see 3 of these guys at the major league level this year.
That's it. Yeah, that's Steel Hall, huh? Is that what you're talking about? No, just kidding. He's
wild.
Yeah. There's no Alex Rodriguez situation, a 19-year-old debut. But anyway, maybe, I don't know. He's still young. But anyway, we'll move off of that. Now we're going to really drill down to our top 5 guys one by one. We've seen 30 through number 6, and our number 5 guy is a fan favorite between us, to a guy that, electric smile, also great with the fans, and also has a beautiful swing. Number 5, Cam Collier, third base, first base. I'm not sure exactly. That's kind of the thing with Cam. If just in like short summary, is where does he fit in? He's obviously going to have a starting job, I believe, somewhere in Louisville, whether it's third or first. But he has come off of an injury this time last year with his thumb, I believe, Ricky. So he's kind of been coming back. I think he ended up running through the system in just a rehab from the ACL up to Dayton, up to Daytona, up to Chattanooga last year. And I think that was his last stop. But I think for sure know that he's going to be optioned down to AAA. I want to say that came down through the transaction logs pretty recently. But a big season for him coming up. And we've made predictions on this show. I believe you made a big prediction about him on this show, but I think this is a real pivotal year for him at the very least to see what he's got. He's got the swing profile that they love up there in Chris Felica, Tito Francona world, where it's just nice level line drives, great eye for the plate. Like this may be a huge season for Cam Collier at Louisville, but what are your thoughts about Cam?
Yeah, I think that bold take that we're talking about is I think he has a Sal Stewart type year where he goes from Double-A to the major league team in a season. It's I don't want to say I'm guaranteeing it, but there's a chance. I don't think anybody expected Sal Stewart to do what he did last year, and similar situation. Sal Stewart came off of a pretty good wrist injury. Didn't know you were going to get out of him. His power numbers dipped, and then the next year he skyrockets through the organization. And Collier has a pretty good eye for the zone. He's got a really nice level, hard hitting swing. In 2024, I think he had 20 home runs.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and he started out, I think it was April. He had 7. It's like he started out the year on fire. And, I think he was projected to start the season last year in Double-A, had the thumb surgery, had some rehab starts in the ACL, had a rehab start in Dayton, looked pretty well. He only had 4 home runs last year, but like I said, I think everyone's freaking out about the power and the swing mechanics or whatever, but I think if you just let him play, let him have a season where he's not worrying about anything, he has an off season, fully healthy. He's not focused on rehabbing at all, not worrying about adjusting his swing because of the rehab. I think he goes in, he starts the year out hot in Double-A, and then maybe in the second half of the season in the Southern League, he gets moved up to Triple-A. And who knows, you catch fire. An injury happens to one of the infielders, and you needed someone to fill in at third base. Yeah, you have Suarez. Yeah, you got Stewart, but some of those, they're going to need days off eventually, and you're going to need somebody to come up. I don't think he's the first player to get called up. I think we've all said that, one of the next guys we're going to talk about is going to be one of the first ones called up, but I'm not against saying that he could make his debut in 2026, but I think the most likely scenario is 2027. But yeah. He's my candidate to really just excel this year.
Yeah. You pointed out a 2024 season. He had great season. Also was in the Futures All-Star game. MVP. Hit a home run in that. So we know he's capable of it. It's a matter of like the bounce back. We talk about this with McClain. Talk about this with Edwin Arroyo coming off injuries and getting the power back. That's why I say this is a huge pivotal season for him to see if he still got it. And we know he does. It's just a matter of hopefully he can show it out there to everyone else and be able to perform at a level that makes it hard for the Reds organization to say no. No. Hopefully he makes it hard to make it, because like I said, the logjam of kind of third and first base that's happening in our organization, he's got to earn it, and so much that like it's undeniable that he's the next guy. Like he's the next guy that gets called up. But we're gonna definitely keep tabs on Cam this 2026 season. Where he ends up and how he performs for sure throughout the year. So,
do you think that maybe there's a chance they maybe try to see how he looks in the outfield?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. That's a decent question. I know he hasn't played. I haven't seen anything about that in terms of like him just like practicing out there. I think they have him penciled in at like third base, at least at Chattanooga, and in the backfields. That's where he was doing a lot of his work. There wasn't any experimentation like a Jonathan India where they see McClain and they're like, well, let's get some reps for India at center. Or like TJ Friedel's been playing a lot of left field for training and whatnot, and also spring training games. And Benson's been in center field because they want to see that. So I think if they would play him there, they would have got him reps, whether in spring training or in the minor league games. So I don't see it, at least for 2026. We'll see. Maybe things change, but I don't think so. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think it's very slim. I was just thinking more outside the box. Just like, you have Ke'Bryan Hayes locked up at third base through 2030. Sal Stewart's going to be your first baseman of the future, most likely, unless he can really play second base. And then, the Ellie thing goes south and you move him to a corner outfield spot. And then you got, Friedel getting older, maybe a trade candidate in the next year or two, or maybe he just walks in 3 years.
Yeah.
Marte doesn't really develop like we think he does, just kind of keeping your options open. And I don't know. I'm not saying I want to see it, but I think we said one of our first ever episodes we ever did. I think my infield was, you had Cam Collier and Sal Stewart as your corner infielders, and you had Ellie and McLean as your middle infielders. And I think I don't know. Maybe those are a pipe dream now, but I'm all in on Cam. It just seems like I'm just a even better person than he is a baseball player. Everything that I've seen on social media for him, and I wish nothing but the best for him. And I really want to see him in a Reds uniform.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's Cam Collier. Keep an eye on him. Hopefully a great future ahead of him going forward. But we'll transition now down to our number 4 prospect on our Red Hot Reds top 30, a guy that we have a lot of high hopes for, and the Reds we believe as well have a lot of hope for, because they added him to the 40-man back in December as well to protect him from Rule 5. Shortstop, second base, third base, could be flexible. We got Ellie obviously at the top level. I think he's going to be everyday shortstop at Louisville, but Edwin Arroyo, a guy that I had also higher hopes that he would be playing more in the World Baseball Classic, but that's just my personal feelings that Francisco Lindor's out. Why not throw the kid in there, see what he can do? Defensively, he's pretty solid, so why not? But he only got in there some spot, situations, unfortunately. But, he'll definitely be, I think, maybe motivated by that to try to earn his place in the Reds. I think we've come to the conclusion that he's going to be possibly the first guy called up if there's any possible issues or injuries in the infield or what have you, that they need some depth there. He's possibly that first candidate to be called upon. And he's a switch hitter, right? So he can go from left to right side, gives that flexibility. And like I said, his defense has been above average for the most part, bouncing back from injury as well from 2024, having a bounce back year in 2025. But there's still some room for growth, and hopefully his power is also going to be coming back online, which I think, Ricky, you've touched on a little bit in our shows past. But what are your overall thoughts on Edwin Arroyo in 2026?
It's funny. So many people just think just because he didn't have power last year that he had a bad year. He hit 284, which is his second best average of his career. He had an on base of 345, which was his second best on base of his career. He had 23 doubles, which was, only 5 less than he had in 23 and only 2 less than he had in 22.
Yeah.
And what got him though is he only had 3 home runs compared to 13 and 14 the previous 2 seasons. He has, he acknowledges that the power isn't where he wants it. He's hitting the ball hard. It's just not going where he wants it to go, I guess. He said that he's making some attempts to get more loft on his swing to get the ball in the air more, which should translate to some more doubles and some more extra base hits, potentially more home runs. Like we said, he's just a really good defender. Sure glove. I think he might get overhyped on his defense just because we're comparing him to Ellie. But he really good player. He was the second round pick out of Seattle in 2021, and I think people forget that the Luis Castillo trade, like him and Marte were the two headlining prospects. They were 1 and 2 in the organization. And he's got 32 home runs in his minor league career. So he's not a slouch with his power, but if he could hit 10, 15 home runs, he's more of like your classic shortstop, but he's not your, Ellie or what Fernando Tatis used to be when he played shortstop. He's not, name a shortstop. He's more of like your Derek Jeter, like good glove, hits for a little bit of average, can run into a home run every once in a while. And, he seems to be what the Reds are kind of wanting throughout the organization, just guys that hit the ball. And if he could have like a good year this year, I think he's going to, maybe win back the hearts of the ones that he lost this past season.
Yeah, for sure. And he definitely, I think, has a solid chance to be called up first because we have a backup in Ellie with like McLean, and McLean hasn't really played a lot of shortstop, at least recently, but he can do it if need be. And the backups for McLean are basically like Spencer Steer and Sal Stu, which is not ideal, even though that I think you've said a bunch of times that Spencer Steer's preferred position or favorite position is second base, which would be interesting to see him penciled in if it had to come to that. So he could be that Santiago Espinal where he's a middle infielder that is, off the bench and whatnot, and in relief maybe can come in and play a little bit of third base, a little bit of second base, a little bit short. That'll be kind of maybe his role going forward in the near future. And if not anything, he'll hopefully be able to play every single day at short in Louisville and get that power number back. That'll be kind of the thing we'll be looking for is if he can, reclaim that power, or at least be able to hit for, gap power at Louisville. That'll be the thing we're going to definitely keep tabs on. He's definitely a prospect that the Reds really, really value because they didn't want him claimed in the Rule 5 draft, and a guy that they got in the trade, a big haul for, Luis Castillo from Seattle. So there's a lot, I think, of faith that this player is going to be a Cincinnati Red sooner than later.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. We'll hopefully see what kind of major leaguer he turns into. Like you said, he's not going to be, the Alex Rodriguez, Ellie De La Cruz killing the ball, for 30, 40 home runs and whatnot, or even like a guy that will steal 40 to 50 bags like Ellie. But I think he's got a solid major league career ahead of him. It's a matter of, I guess, where he fits in the organization going forward. But
yeah. Eugenio Suarez is really high on him.
Yeah. You had mentioned that about him, that he thinks he's got a burgeoning superstar,
potential superstar, and he's familiar with him. They played in Seattle. They said that Suarez made a priority to talk to the young players in camp. So if he sees it, I kind of believe him.
Yeah. I don't think Gino is making things up, but that's Edwin Arroyo. We will definitely be keeping tabs on his season there down in Louisville, and we will transition then to our top three. We're getting to the top three. So these guys are guys that we're really big fans of, guys that jump off the page when you see them in terms of just maybe their metrics, maybe just the way they go about their baseball, the way they hit the ball, the way they field and whatnot. Our number 3 prospect is a guy that just moved from the ACL up to Daytona recently, and maybe Dayton this year if he keeps progressing. I believe at least the time of this recording, he's still at the major league camp. He hasn't been assigned down to the minor league camp, and that is Tyson Lewis, the second round 2024 pick, I believe. A kid, just a high school kid that hits the snot out of the ball. And I think I told you this. I saw him at Reds Fest, and I saw him walking alongside Alfredo Duno, not that much smaller than him. And that's kind of crazy to think about. because Alfredo Duno is listed at like 6'2", 250. This guy is listed here on reference 6'1", 195. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's over 200 because they said he's been growing. And being only, 20 years old, just turning 20, he may have even another growth spurt in there. They had been playing him at third base at the major league level because they have, unfortunately, your guy Garrett Hampson playing a lot of shortstop when he's there, and or Leo Balcazar or whomever they had with the major league club. But anyway, Tyson Lewis, man, I don't know. There's a lot to say about him because he's still so super young, but he's got a lot ahead of him that, they traded Sammy Stafura last season, probably to clear way for this guy to move up in the organization a little bit quicker than if they did had, Sammy still in the Reds org. But what are your overall thoughts about number 3 prospect Tyson Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, his metrics just jump off the page. 27 stolen bases last year, 9 home runs, a 311 batting average, 862 OPS. His first hit as a Red was the overall franchise's record for the hardest hit ball in the StatCast era, which is incredible for a second round pick who was just turned 18. He was one of the, I think I saw he was one of the higher touted prospects out of the state of Nebraska ever. So that's pretty awesome to see. Came up to Daytona halfway through the year. Had a great debut game. Would he have a home run, a triple, a double? I think, he does chase a lot. He does whiff a lot, but he's a kid. And, when you get those, you get different hitting coaches along each level. You make your adjustments and you're facing better pitching every level. Is he going to hit 300 every year? Probably not, but he might hit more than 9 home runs too. Just he hits the ball hard. So I'm excited about him. Like you said, he probably starts the year, I would assume, in Daytona just because he only had half a season there. Unless, he's played very well in major league games in spring training.
Yeah.
Maybe he skips and goes up to Dayton and only plays that half a season with Daytona last year. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they do have some shortstop depth, but they really have a good shortstop at Dayton right now. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one.
So I think Leo got promoted. Leo Balcazar was the starting at the beginning of 2025, but he got promoted mid-season. I think Ricky Cabrera plays second and third.
Yeah.
And now I'm failing to think.
I think it would have been Stafura. So maybe, there's a chance if he's, hitting major league pitching, maybe he goes up to Dayton and skips the, first half of the year of Daytona.
For sure. Honestly, I think he's a really big candidate because of his power and his ability to hit the ball. He could be a third baseman. He might be a corner guy. Not to add to our logjam there, but obviously him playing, third base for the major league team for spring training games. I don't know if that's an indication of his future or they're just trying him out to put him there and whatnot. He seems to have the arm strength to play that spot, and he may even end up in the outfield possibly as well if he's got a strong enough arm and is hitting for power and can learn that position. That could be a possibility, just throwing that out there. I'm not saying I know anything or whatnot, but he's definitely, I think they're going to try to find to put him somewhere, basically, right? He's obviously, drafted as a shortstop, but we know that kids that get drafted as shortstop are because they're the best, especially at high school, because they're the best athlete that high school has. And they're going to put him in the most important defensive position in the infield, if not in center field or whatnot. But, a corner outfield, maybe his future. The one thing it's been kind of crazy is that he's also part of that hit parade. There was the home run he hit was 440 feet in Arizona. So, he's got outrageous power and outrageous swing speed. And that can hopefully translate into a more disciplined hitter this season. Like you said, his whiff rate hopefully will come down. He'll be able to, have a little bit better discernment at the plate. We'll have to keep tabs on that going forward about Tyson Lewis. But like you said, sky's the limit for this guy. Wherever position they ultimately settle for him, and like I said, he might have another growth spurt. He might, who knows where he'll end up in the outfield, first base, third base. I think this is a guy they have to, like I said, they kind of got rid of Sammy Stafura to clear a little bit of path for him. I think that this is the guy they feel could be, after Ellie is gone, could be that shortstop, or just, whomever. It could be Arroyo and him at shortstop and third, basically, is what maybe the future is what they're projecting. But any other thoughts about Tyson?
No, just insane talent. Just insane talent.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of, just the shortstops. We're chock full of shortstops, but obviously they don't always end there. Like you always say about Marte. Marte came up as a shortstop, moved to third, which is why I'm kind of thinking maybe this could be Tyson Lewis's path as well. But they also have the ability to move possibly the outfield if they got strong enough arm like Marte. We will see.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fangraphs lists Carlos Sanchez as the shortstop, third baseman for your Dayton Dragons right now. And maybe Tyson Lewis. Fangraphs has a way of predicting some things. We will see. We'll have to keep a tab on that. That's all hopefully coming out soon, where they're going to start assigning guys to different levels so that we can get an even more in-depth prediction on the 2026 season. And we're going to come out with that. Just to give a little plug, we'll have like a AAA and AA show on Monday coming up, and then we'll have like a single A Daytona and low A Daytona, or no, single A Dayton, a high A Dayton, and low A Daytona coming up in their own show to preview those rosters and our projections of what we'd like to see out of the guys that end up in those different levels of the organization. But yeah, getting down to it, Ricky. Last two guys. And these two guys, I think, are no surprises if you've been following us, been following the Reds, been following minor league baseball. These two guys are, I wouldn't say can't miss, but they're pretty darn close to it. They're guys that our organization obviously really, really values and think that they're possibly future of, like, Ellie, like, putting their face all over all the signage and all the posters and whatnot. But our guy, Alfredo Duno, number 2 catcher out of Venezuela, the big poppy out there, that's he's going to be turning a lot of heads because he already has in a lot of different ways, whether you're talking about the Arizona Fall League where he's crushing 3 homers in 2 days, whether that's just out in spring training where he's crushing the ball anytime he gets a chance, whether that's even just watching him run the bases as a guy that's listed, like I said, at 6'2", 250. He can move. He's not just a guy that, is kind of clumsy coming out of the box. He's a really big athlete. I think Jonathan Harmon had said if he grew up in Louisiana, he'd be playing for Louisiana State. He wouldn't be playing no baseball. He'd be on the defensive or offensive line playing football. So that's what kind of athlete we got here in Alfredo Duno. And what are your first thoughts on him?
I don't even know where to start. Just, last year it was his first full season as a professional, and he wins league MVP in the FSL. Just domination. I think he led the league in 8 categories, finished second or better in 12 categories. He had 81 RBIs. I think that was a league leading 948 OPS. That was, I think, a league leading 18 home runs, league leading 287 average. That was like top 5, I think. I might have been second. Just insane talent. His first professional season, he was limited to a DH role. Had an elbow issue coming out when he got signed, and then in 2024 he had a broken rib that he had suffered in May, and that cut his season short. So that's really probably the reason why he repeated in low A last year. I know I'd say we're probably like 95% sure he's going to start in Dayton. There's the 5% in me that thinks he could start in Double-A. I think he's ready. It's just I don't want to rush him, but there's things to think about with the team also. Like, this is most likely the last season we have a Tyler Stevenson at the major league level.
Yeah.
Jose Trevino's getting older, and you don't really have a catcher that you can say definitively is going to be a consistent major leaguer next year, and that's including Duno. So you're going to have to do something to get a bridge catcher for at least 2 years, you would think. And we speak highly of this 2027 class, 2028 class, and I think he's headlining that class. He's probably I could see him being a top 5 overall prospect in baseball by next year. He was unranked last year, and then at the end of the season, I think he cracked the top 80, and here he is now. I think at 36 or so. He's in the 30s.
Yeah,
I mean, what a jump. He's just incredible talent. I can't say enough about him, and I think you and Mike have lamented that he seems like a good dude also, just from what limited time you can speak to him, and in the backfields or whatever. But I mean, just an incredible talent, and just kind of looking back to kind of put it in perspective, like the Reds international free agent sightings since 2018, you're headlined by Ellie, but then you have you got him, you've got Adolfo Sanchez, Pablo Nunez, Hansel Jimenez. Like, a lot of these guys are now becoming top prospects. And I know officially Hansel Jimenez have cracked the pipeline top 30 after the hand trade. So you're seeing their work finally, and Duno is just skyrocketing, and he's gonna become a household name here really soon.
Yeah, for sure. And if you know what our top 1 guy is, we know for sure that he's gonna probably graduate. So this is literally our top guy, at least in 2026. For our purposes of this list, he's number 2, but we kind of really know that in the pipeline, he is the guy that is the next big thing, I guess you can say.
In about 8 weeks, he'll be number 1.
Right. Yeah. So check out our list in 8 weeks, and then we'll update it again. But he also, I think you might have touched on this a little bit, but like, he got a great eye for the plate. He's not a guy that's got a really high whiff rate in the minors. He walks just as much as any other guy that as much as you want him to. He's not having these awkward like 40%, 50% strikeout rates.
He walks more than he struck out last year.
Yeah, that is something you don't see even in the low end minors. And you don't necessarily see that. Hopefully he'll continue to have that type of plate discipline at Dayton as well. But you know what I mean? That I think is maybe a thing. And that's what Sal Stewart was as well. He had kind of that good percentage of more walks to strikeouts. So I think that might be a kind of an indicator that he's on a path to be a burgeoning all-star type player at the majors, right? It's not like he's up there just taking hacks just to take hacks and getting lucky and running into some pitches. I don't think that's the case at all. Defensively, it's interesting because a lot of outside scouts have talked about, well, Alfredo Duno, great hitter, great discipline, but we don't know if he's sustainable to be a catcher. It's like, well, then that's probably sounding like scouts and commentators that aren't watching him on a regular basis. They're just basing it off his body type and thinking that the wear and tear of being a bigger guy or whatever, they got preconceived ideas of Alfredo Duno, kind of projecting that on him. And I think they're obviously all full of it because this guy is an athlete through and through. I don't know exactly his body, fat percentage. I'm not trying to get down to that type of combine type of statistics with this guy. It's baseball, you know what I mean? But like, he's definitely like an athlete, and he's obviously just turned 20. So he's got a big future ahead of him. Now, will they kind of do like I think we mentioned in the McChrystal and some other shows as well, and some other organizations do this where they have catchers play first base as well and kind of split time with that, maybe just for wear and tear, maybe just to give them more versatility and whatnot. Even our guy PJ Higgins, is a AAA catcher, who may be a bridge guy that you kind of alluded to. That I'm not sure where the bridge guy, a 32-year-old catcher for our Louisville Bats. He splits time from catcher to first base as well. At least that's what I've been seeing a lot for Louisville and also in spring training. But anyway, back to Duneau. Obviously this is a big year to show he can continue that MVP form from last year, right? Because at least from our perspective, we know that the numbers aren't phony because the Florida State League is a bit harder to hit than some other leagues are. So like, I don't think this is just a one and done, like, oh, he had a great year and then a regression the next. I think this is a big year to show all the doubters that are outside of our organization that evaluate talent that he is for real. And Dayton would love to see this guy hit 20 plus home runs this season, because the crowd there obviously backs their Dayton Dragons a lot. But if they got a combination of McChrystal and him going back and forth, like, I think it would be an exciting season to be a Dayton Dragons season ticket holder for sure. Yeah,
I know we've kind of made it the point that we're gonna have to get up there and we're gonna have to see him because
in April.
Yeah, because it's gonna have to be early because if he has a good April and May, like, he's probably moving up quick.
Yeah, and that's Alfredo Duneau. Like we think that is a real possibility, but I guess the results have to prove themselves out first before we, I guess, jump to any more conclusions. We're just basing it off what we've seen and what I saw literally live in person. Like he can hit the ball hard. That is no doubt for sure.
Yeah, you wanna see a clip of him hitting? Go check out our YouTube short of him hitting. The ball goes a long way, and I want to coin the phrase, "Don't you know, Alfredo Duneau?"
Yeah, all right. Working on your broadcasting skills. All right, that sounds good. We'll do that. Any other thoughts about our guy Alfredo Duneau?
I mean, I could go on for hours.
I would say we could have had a whole podcast dedicated to like these top guys. These
the
top
Duneau show.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll move on to number one, and the guy that Ricky pegged for having a meteoric rise through the organization to get to the majors, and has, obviously nothing set in stone, but I think has cemented his spot in the major league level. So he won't be on this list probably anymore, aside from today. Mr. Salbert Stuholz. Sal Stu, a guy that his plate approach, like we talked about, real discipline, hits for power, hits for average, can play first base, third base, play even a little bit of second base, which I don't necessarily want to see tremendous a lot, or like a lot of second base out of Sal Stu, to be fair to him. I approve of him wanting to be versatile and help this ball club any way he can. But I think, Matt McClain, if healthy, should be our second baseman defensively, no doubt about it. But anyway, Sal Stu, definitely a guy that I think everybody now has on his radar and now are huge fans. But back in March 2025, I think Ricky had the clip of saying that he could have this huge year and move up the system, because I think he started in Dayton in 2025. This is not like a guy that was in Louisville in March of 2025. This was a guy that literally was playing for the Dayton Dragons and just boom, 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 kept it moving. And then September 1st, 2025, I had the lucky privilege of seeing him in person with his energy power the Reds to a 4-3 or 5-4 win against the Blue Jays, who end up going to the World Series, by the way. So this guy, I think, at least if he isn't hitting well, isn't doing things, or the ball isn't finding the field, as we say, he at least is going to bring that same positive, great energy to this ball club. But enough about my comments. Ricky, what are your thoughts about Sal?
That might have been my best take in the history of the show. If you look at his numbers from 24, he played in 80 games. He hit 279, on base 391, slugged 454. It's an 845 OPS. He had 8 home runs, down from his 12 the year prior. and he spent the whole season in Dayton. 2023, he split time between both A levels and only hit 12 home runs between both. He actually hit 10 in Daytona, and he hit the 2 in Dayton. I don't know. I don't know where. I just had the idea. I looked at his numbers. He had always walked close to, or if not better than, his strikeout rate. So in 23, he walked 84 times, struck out 77. In 24, he struck out 57 times, walked 50. In 25 is the first time you've seen like a dramatic difference where he struck out 77 times and walked 46 times. So it's still like a almost a 2-to-1 ratio, kind of. So I think that's why I feel so confident about Cam Collier, because they had such a similar season in back-to-back years. You had Stewart had a wrist injury, and it zapped him of his power. Like in 2024, like I said, he played 80 games. He had 8 home runs, and he had 23 doubles and 1 triple. And funny enough, that's his only triple in his minor league career. He just lit the world on fire in AAA in the minors last year. You know, he gets on the futures team. Him and Alfredo Duno both.
Right.
And you know, I think it was that week he got promoted to AAA. Him and Hector Rodriguez both, and you know, he got even better in AAA. And we're so excited about him, mostly because when he got to the major league level, he was the best hitter on the team, even though he played in limited games, or I should say limited at bats. He played in a lot of games, just limited at bats, and he led the team in home runs in September. And you know, he's made it a priority. He slimmed down. You can tell in this picture, looks like a totally different person.
Yeah.
And he you know, he said he wanted to prove to Tito that he can take care of himself. For one, he wants to have a 20-year career. He wants people wearing his jersey 20 years after he retires. And you know, if that's the mentality he has, you know, and he's got the talent, there's no doubt in my mind that him being the number 1 prospect on this team can't translate into being the number 1 player on the team someday, you know, whether that's 2026, 2027, or 2030 or whatever it may be. I'm excited about him. Just his power is finally kind of coming to fruition. And yeah, he's learned a new position. He's moved to first base. He's always been a second base or a third baseman. And having a leader like Eugenio Suarez, who knows how to hit home runs, in his ear, and a Hall of Fame manager in Terry Francona, just teaching him how to be a professional. Like I'm excited about this kid.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think we talked about this with Mike, maybe on that live show with Arizona, because he was talking about, well, should Sal Stewart start in AAA? Maybe. And I don't know if that was some sort of troll like type topic, because I was like, right now, Sal Stewart is the second best hitter on this team.
Yes.
After Ellie. Like, that's not even like a debate, I think, in many circles. And maybe there could be some parsing, maybe Marte could be the second. But anyway, the point being is that Sal Stewart is that good that you can't start him in AAA. And if you do, it has to be for maybe some other reason than his performance. But the other thing I was thinking about with Sal Stewart that happened was he was like called up September 1st. And I don't know, Ricky, if you remember how horrible of a month the Reds had in August. I mean, so much so that they keep blaming it on Ellie's quad. Like that was the only reason why they lost games or didn't perform well. But neither here nor there. I guess I'm having a hypothetical question roll around in my mind, and I'm going to throw to you. Would the Reds I know the service time thing is obviously a thing for organizations or whatever, which is maybe why they waited to September 1st. But would the Reds have been better off calling up Sal Stu before September 1st, 2025? Say August 15th, August 8th, when they had that really rough stretch of not scoring runs and losing games in their worst month of 2025? Or, like, can we safely say that, Sal Stu helped them make the playoffs? Because if he's not there in September and they keep him in AAA, do they win 83 games? Like, I throw it to you. Like, you can answer all those or any of those or whatever you want.
I think it's a mixed bag. I think, that they could have, and it probably would have helped. But I think they were probably trying to see if he was going to cool off, and he didn't. And obviously he got to the major league level, and, he didn't explode onto the scene like some players do. But for a player that played in 18 games, I think it was, he hit 5 home runs. Like, he hit 5 home runs in 18 games. That's pretty good. And obviously, I think a lot of us were looking at him being the third baseman of the future after the whole Marte situation not working out.
Right.
And just getting Ke'Bryan Hayes, shoring up the defense, took the pressure off of him, I think, to just focus on, you got to learn a new position at first base, but you can more, we're not relying on you to be the most important player on this team right now, but we could sure use the shot in the arm of your power. And it worked. And I don't agree with Mike's take on him starting in AAA.
Yeah.
I try to be nice. I'll listen to a take, but like you said, he's arguably the second best hitter. Maybe if you could argue top 5 best hitter on the team. If you're going to go by overall consistency, you can throw TJ Friedel in there. But yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit for him too. And, they have a 1-2 punch of him and Alfredo Duno as your 2 top prospects. And yeah, Duno's a little bit further away, but man, Sal Stewart getting to the major league level last year was really unexpected and just a testament to his work ethic, his ability, and just his talent and whatever, synonyms you want to use for those words.
Yeah, for sure. A deserving top of our top 30 list. Was the top one in our top 30 in November as well. So not really a big surprise. Same thing with Duno. He was number 2 as well back in November of 2025. But, he's probably going to graduate, which he should. We fully deserve, or he fully deserves that almost every day, hopefully starting spot somewhere, in this organization where that's, first base a lot, hopefully. And then going forward, projecting, like he says, he's going to have a 20-year career. So hopefully all 20 of those years are in Cincinnati, is all I'll say about that. And hopefully we'll be able to enjoy Sal Stu this season and years to come with that same energy that he brought on his debut. That's the thing I think I'm most looking forward to, is because, not to go sidetrack, but 162 games is a grind. And you see in the World Baseball Classic the emotions that come out of these guys because of getting just a walk or a single, man. Like, I don't think I've seen that much celebration for a walk or a single in my life at the major league level. So I think for sure if we got a guy at least in Sal Stu in our organization, in the clubhouse in Cincinnati on opening day, we know at the very least, he's going to bring great energy and positivity and a lot of talent as well to the Reds.
Yeah, it's I can't even put in the words just how excited I am to have him just as a real option to be a really important player on this team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that Ricky, I don't know if you got any other thoughts on any of those guys. I know we've gone a good length into talking about our prospects. We'll be doing it every single Monday for Minor League Mondays, right here at the Red Hot Reds, a Cincinnati Reds podcast. We're really thankful for everyone that subscribed and liked and commented. Share this. I know we've got a lot of fans, or at least a lot of our people that follow us that really love the minors. So shout out to those people that support us and share it with them. the minors, it's a deep dive. We'll do the legwork. We're going to do all the research and give you the details on how these guys are doing, because there's a lot of people to cover. So keep it here at Minor League Mondays, Red Hot Reds. We really appreciate it. And, as we say, every single show, go Reds.
Go Reds.